One of the things that drew me to coming to work at NIDA was the excitement of the team that I would be working with, and also the environment that was being created here in terms of the creativity and the people that interconnect across the course. So I have a team that is comprised of Gavin Robbins, Head of Movement, Katerina Moraitis, Head of Voice, and Andrew Ross, Head of Music, and of course I'm sitting in the chair as Director of Acting. And between us, what we're doing is reshaping and refocusing the acting course. So, in principle, the NIDA acting course works in a simple manner, spread over 3 years. The first year is really about the self. How do you, as an actor, come to terms with your instrument? What is the instrument that you've got at your disposal? And so, through a series of exercises and discipline explorations, we're constantly challenging the actors to explore what they've got at their disposal. So there's imaginative work, there's text work, there's acting studio work, there's voice classes, there's combat, there's dance, there's social dance, there's all sorts of things. Like most conservatoire trainings, the idea is to try and encourage an actor to realise that they have a toolbox at their disposal rather than any one particular methodology. And so in the first year, by the time they get to the end of the year, they will work as an ensemble. They'll know how to work together. They'll know the basic principles of psychophysical acting and the process involved. And we tend to finish the year with a big project where the group works together as a celebration of all that they've achieved in the year. So if the first year is a focus on the individual actor and coming to terms with their body, their instrument, the second year really is about the challenge of, well, how do I find characterization? How do I develop that aspect of my craft? And we do that through an engagement with heightened classical text. So we have a Shakespeare workshop where students engage with a cut version of the play in 2 companies. So this year, for instance, we did Julius Caesar and Macbeth. They then follow that work with, at the moment, public productions, but it's another workshop, work in progress experience. And in that context, what they do is the students work with stage management. They work across the various disciplines in the building. They'll have a director working with them who will have worked with a design student. And so all these disciplines are brought to bear on a production, and the students start to integrate into that process and learn how to work collaboratively, really, with other departments. The second year then continues with loosely put comedy projects. So, for instance, we might explore various styles, going from some Lecoq training through to some commedia dell'arte training, and then how you might integrate those sort of classic disciplines, if you like, into text and scenes. And the year is finished off with a public production. And in this year, for instance, we're doing Country Wife. Tom Wright's coming in to direct The Country Wife, and I'm going to direct a production of The Changeling by Middleton and Rowley. So we're looking at a course that encourages the actors in their second year to really push the envelope of what they're comfortable with, move out of perhaps the naturalistic milieu and embrace heightened text, heightened emotional life, inner life, as it were, as a way of exploring the physical dynamics and the characterization possibilities that they can bring to bear in any part. Final year really is about industry, and what we're looking at with them is how do we move you to a point where you're industry ready. So the process is very similar. There is a lot of discipline classes, and then that is followed by rehearsal processes so that they work on an American play, for instance, followed by public productions. And the public productions really is the calling card and to industry. So there are a number of public productions throughout the final year of training and other industry activities. So we have public productions, we have Showcase, which is our big end of year launch into industry. And we have a particular event called Unplugged, where the actors work in a rehearsal room, sharing work based on duologues. And that is very much a simple exploration of scene work, but it's an opportunity for agents to come in and look at the work very raw. And that can be a really exciting thing for the actors, because it takes some of the pressure off. and it gives the opportunity for the agents to see them perhaps in process. And so far, we've had very positive responses from agents who really like the opportunity to see the actors as themselves, really, working on material that they're really keen and interested in. The other aspect of the work that goes right the way through the trainings is film and television. And what we do is we introduce the camera and film and television training in the first year, right towards the end of the year, so as to give the actors the opportunity to have embodied some of the techniques and the skills that they need to have. And then we launch them into a variety of film and television projects throughout their training, leading to what we call showreel, which is an opportunity to shoot on location with contemporary filmmakers, a short scene that can actually help them when they are in that process of engaging with agents and casting directors. So they've got a calling card to industry that shows them, at their best. I think the exciting thing that we're trying to do is create an environment where young artists in training can come and equip themselves with the skills they'll need to negotiate, if you like, the ever-changing industry that they're about to enter into. So I think traditional modes of training are very useful, but also what we have to do is take a responsibility to recognise that the technology that's surrounding theatrical production, for instance, is changing. The modes of delivery and how young actors and artists are collaborating to develop webisodes or their own material, that's all changing. So what we're looking at doing with our students is really facilitating how they can actually find creative opportunities throughout their training here, so that they leave the building with a confidence to make their own material, to work together, to find other like-minded souls, as it were, to generate webisodes, to generate content, to write, to form companies so that they can take ownership of their careers. We hope they will, of course, get film, television, theatre work, but there are gaps in time between those opportunities. And I think one of the most important aspects for young writers, directors, designers and actors is to actually be in an environment where they can actually collaborate here and then take those relationships out into the profession and generate their own work for the future. And I think that's what becomes really exciting, is the possibility that within an environment such as NIDA, a student coming in on the acting course will meet 18 new directors, possibly 18 new designers over the 3 years of their training. So already there's a very strong potential network of people that they can associate with, that they will know, and that they can draw on for advice or engage in terms of developing projects. So coming back to the acting training, why we're interested in that is that we think that the actor should be a very flexible, adaptive, creative individual, able to bring their artistry to bear on whatever project comes their way, and also that they are able to draw on a vast reservoir, if you like, of tools and techniques that can help other artists fulfill their vision. So obviously the audition process is something that every student who comes into NIDA has to go through. And one of the things that we as a team believe very strongly is the idea that the audition process, in some institutions across the globe, it's literally in, do your 2 pieces and out the door. And we took a view that as we are travelling around the country, going to the various cities, major cities of Australia to audition candidates for NIDA, it was probably better for us to actually try and change the audition process into something more of a workshop. So that students get the opportunity to perhaps work with tutors that NIDA works with, and with heads of department at the recall stage. And how we turned the audition process into a workshop was really quite simple. What we did was we still like students to do 2 pieces. So give us a classical piece, give us a modern piece. A couple of things I would say about that. Find pieces that you're interested in. Find pieces that speak to you, that you connect to. Find contemporary Australian voices. Find global voices, if you like, from other playwrights. But let us hear your voice. I would say to you, don't do American accents. You don't need them. We're interested in who you are. NIDA's an Australian drama school, and I think we need to be representative of the community that we serve, and that is Australia. Now, obviously, if you're from America and you are, and that's your native voice, then use use that voice. But in real terms, what we're trying to see is you in the audition. So use your voice, find a contemporary piece that you're excited by, find a classical piece that you connect to. And what we do is we have some suggestions on our NIDA website. So for those people who it might be harder to get hold of material, we have a list of suggestions that we say, well, look, have a look at those. They may be useful for you. So the first part of the audition process, it involves the group coming together. We normally warm the group up and take them through a process whereby we try to relax the nerves. So through some games, through some interaction, the students are sort of warmed up and ready for the work. Then what we do is we divide the group into two, and one of the team that is holding the auditions will see one set of pieces, while the other one sees the others. Then the two staff team come back together, they share notes and have a conversation about what they've seen, and we repeat the process with the opposite groups. So every person gets seen by both members of the team, and what we will do is we will interrupt the work of the actors who are applying, and we might give them suggestions, and we might encourage them to try a different technique or try to imagine a different set of circumstances. And in a way, what we're looking for with that is, how adaptive are you? Have you learnt your piece in such a way that you can't flex or be adaptive or change the circumstances? Or sometimes we might see something and we think, oh, you've chosen the wrong piece. Let's just see if we can change the circumstances, and we'll get a better insight into you as the actor. So what happens eventually is the two groups come back as one. We will have seen both pieces, and at that point we invite a number of students or potential candidates to go forward to our recall process. Now, at the recall process, what we will do is we'll have, again, a group of actors. We'll take them through a warm-up process. The heads of department will look at their pieces, and we tend to be much more involved in giving them challenges or exploring the work on the floor or trying to play with the actors just to see how open they are to change and adapt, and how adaptable they are. Because of our unique elective system at NIDA, we've also given the candidates the opportunity to choose to develop a piece of work or choose a piece that might reflect an interest that they have. So NIDA offers a number of electives on their BFA course. So they have an elective in applied theatre, classical theatre for the contemporary stage, movement theatre and music theatre. So on the website you'll find details as to how you might approach a third piece of work, and you can draw from any of those disciplines and develop something that's appropriate. So we will have a list of songs that we prefer you to choose from for the music theatre stream. For the movement theatre piece, we encourage you to develop a piece of work, and that could be physical, it could involve text as well. For applied, again, it could be developing a piece of work like a monologue, or something that speaks to you from a particular cultural environment or set of circumstances that you might have been involved in. And from the classical elective, what we say to you is find another piece, possibly from our website. I'm always excited when students find unusual pieces that I think, oh good, they've gone off and searched for something else. Now, once they've done their third piece, we will probably ask them to do a duologue. So they'll work with one of our NIDA students who are helping our audition process. And the idea of that is to see how they relate. So very simply, we have two scenes that we will have the scene material on our website, and we ask you to choose a character from the scene, and we put you in a set of circumstances where you play the scene. And very often we'll, again, interrogate that work with you. So the idea is by the end of a recall process, the students will have had the opportunity to have their work worked on. They'll have watched the work of other actors in the room and perhaps observed and maybe taken notes when they've seen the work that other actors have done and how they've adjusted according to the circumstances. And finally, what we will do is we will shortlist candidates. So what happens with the shortlist is that as a result of the recall process, we may select one or two candidates and we'll say to them, right, we would like to put you onto our shortlist. And we basically film them in one of the pieces that they will have done on the day. And we keep a record of that so that on our final selection day, we will have a pool of actors and we'll be able to look at all the work from around the country in order to sort of try and find a balanced group of people who we think will benefit from the training and have a good potential to grow with us. I think one of the things that I'm most excited by this audition process, I think one of the things that most interests me with the audition process is that we actively say to the students, look, it's not a no, it's just not yet. And I think that's something that's really key, is that there is a lot of pressure on particularly young people coming out of school to finish school, go straight into a training and get on with their careers. And I would say to a lot of people, take your time, go and have a bit of life. Go and live a bit, explore the world, see something else, and then come to us, because you'll have more resources. You'll have a bit of life under your belt. And that can make a big difference in terms of your resilience and your ability to cope with the pressure of the training. So sometimes it is no at the audition. Well, a lot of the time it is no at the audition. And that is always hard. But I think one of the things that we're really interested in is we're interested in those actors who are persistent, who come back maybe 2 or 3 years' time, or reapply. And sometimes you just see them grow, and it's that sense of growth over time that really makes you interested in, now they're ready. So auditioning, I would say to you, be yourself. Show us you doing the work. Have some fun in the doing of it, and find material that you gravitate to, that you're interested in. I think one of the most important things is know your lines. Really, 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 it goes with the territory. If you're going to go into this business, know your lines. I think there are a variety of things that you can do as a young actor. You can seek out some very good advice from your drama teachers or your peers or people that you're working with. Always try and get a sense of the story that you're trying to tell. Monologues are a little strange because they are you isolated in space, but bear in mind you're telling a story. So what is that story? And the simplest thing I could say to you is just try and tell the story simply. Don't over-embellish it. Don't over-emote. If it's not necessary. I think you've got to try and find a truthfulness, and use your observation of your fellow human beings and yourself. You've got a vast knowledge within yourself as a human being in terms of behaviour. You will have watched human behaviour. You will have watched films. You will have watched plays. You will have in your everyday encounters. Use observation as a really good touchstone for your work, because if you were to ask yourself the question, do I believe it? It can really help. Do I believe what I'm saying? The other thing I think is useful for you as an actor is to always choose something that you gravitate towards, something that speaks to you, that you find a connection to. Stanislavski used to talk about the idea of the lure, and that's the little thing, the little bit. It might be a moment in a play, it might be a line in a scene that you as an actor suddenly go, oh, that's interesting. And maybe from that, you can expand, your questions as to why you want to do that piece. So I'd always say to you, find the piece you like. What is it about it that you gravitate to? Is it words? Is it the language? Is it the situation? And then I would say to you, try and find a way to create a believable set of circumstances around that. Tell the story, and really, really play something that is age appropriate. I think it's often difficult. There is a tension for young actors sometimes with the requirement to do Shakespeare or classical text. And I would say to you, look at the young men or young women in those plays and take on other roles as well. Don't limit yourself to the gender normative, but find the challenge in something that interests you. But I think try and find parts that are closer to you in age and disposition, because I think that's the sense that we want to see you rather than your interpretation of what it's like to be King Lear, which I would always say is fatal. We want to see you at your best. I think that's something also that's well worth thinking about, is that it's in our interests to get you into NIDA. We want the best people to come here. And so if you are working at your best and you're trying hard and you're committed to your choices, we can see that. So I think be honest about your work. I think you need to find the pleasure in it. And I think ultimately just be true to yourself. Try not to second guess us. It's a paradox, this. We don't know what we're looking for until we see it. And one of the things that will work best for us is, as I said earlier, is the idea that we want a group of young actors working with us who represent Australia at any given moment in time. So what we want are people from a variety of backgrounds. We want people of all different shapes and sizes. We want people who can be the storytellers of the future. And I think bring yourself, bring your honesty to the work, and let's engage in that conversation. So I think if you're auditioning for the first time, bear in mind you will be nervous. The most important thing is breathe. Breathe out. And I think just bear in mind that everybody has been in your situation at some point in their life. And for a lot of actors, it will be an ongoing process that will go throughout your career. You will be meeting people. You will hear the word no quite a lot in this industry, but it's not personal. And the thing that's really important to realize is that actually the no is just perhaps not ready, or in an industry context, doesn't quite work in relation to the other actors that might have been cast in a play or a film, etc. So in terms of preparation, I would say to an actor, learn your lines, look for the gear changes in the speech. Where does the story turn? Is there a moment in the speech that you move from a positive to a negative, or a negative to a positive? Simple tools like that can really help, so that you get a chance to show a change in the speech or whatever piece it is you're working on. I would always say to actors, if you're not successful this year, do as much as you can. Try and work with good people. Try and do a couple of plays. Try and feed yourself. Read books, read novels. Get a wide variety of newspapers that you can read and engage with, so that you're feeding yourself about the world. Go to galleries. See work, other people's work. Go to theatre as much as you can. Go to the cinema. Go and think about whose work it is you admire, what it is about it that you really engage with. And in a similar way, what don't you like is really important. What doesn't work for you? Because then perhaps you start a conversation with yourself about the nature of what it is that you are interested in terms of acting. I would always say to you, if you're not successful, just keep going. Just keep going. It's sometimes persistence and graft, and a lot of it's to do with practice. The more you do, perhaps the better you'll become, and the more confidence you'll develop. Sometimes it's about a bit of confidence in the room on the day, and that can be quite telling. I would always recommend there are a number of books that I think are useful. One of my favourites is Bella Merlin's The Complete Stanislavski Toolkit, where there are great exercises and a really good explanation as to the process. And Mike Alfred's wrote a book called Different Every Night, which has a fantastic way of exploring what it is that the actor needs to do in order to find the simplicity, perhaps, and how to engage with key concepts that will serve you throughout your career, whether it's in theatre, film, radio, webisodes, or anything else that comes along.